What if I told you that one man managed to build a business empire not on products, but on fantasies? That he became the President of the United States without changing his essence, simply by loudly telling his version of the truth. That man is Donald Trump. He has no superpowers. He didn't start from scratch, and he certainly didn't always tell the truth. But he knew the most important thing. People want to believe in beautiful fairy tales. And if you give them something they want to believe in, you can sell them anything, from steaks to a country. Today we will uncover the story of Donald Trump, not as a politician, but as a phenomenon built on image, persistence, struggle, and a very expensive illusion. The story of a man who built a brand stronger than any of his towers. And along with it, a shadow that he casts over an entire era. Donald was born in a typical neighborhood of Queens, far from the glossy skyscrapers of Manhattan, but already surrounded by money and discipline. His father, Fred Trump, was not a fairy tale billionaire, but he knew how to squeeze the maximum out of government aid and built housing for the middle class after the war. Fred became the first model of success for young Donald, but it was a model of strict discipline and obsession with results. He taught his son to win, even if it meant stepping on others. Textbooks? Trivial. The main thing, to win. Donald was an ordinary child, except for the fact that he punched a teacher in the face because he believed the man didn't understand music. From childhood, he said he would become famous. He didn't dream of becoming a doctor, a lawyer, or an engineer. He wanted to be at the center, and to get attention at any cost. At 13 years old, Donald was sent to a tough military academy, an institution where humiliation and punishment were considered a method of upbringing. It was there that he learned to take a hit, follow discipline, and compete. But the most important thing, he realized that winning is everything. He didn't just want to win, he wanted everyone to know that he had won. He scrubbed floors, polished shoes, kept his bed like it was in a museum, all for a medal, a check mark, praise. Attention became his drug. And this boy with a victory obsession, saying things like, "I won't be anyone's loser," finishes school and makes a choice. He doesn't want to be just rich. He wants to be famously rich. And for that, he needs Manhattan. Leaving the academy walls behind, Trump enters university. He studies business, considers a career in film, but quickly returns to the family legacy, real estate. And then, Donald Trump officially joins his father's business. But from the very beginning, things don't go so smoothly. 1973, the U.S. Department of Justice sues Trump Management Inc., accusing the company of systematic racial discrimination. The FBI sends in test tenants. Black applicants are rejected, white applicants are approved under the same conditions. The pattern is clear. And how does Trump respond? He doesn't admit guilt. He attacks. He files a counterclaim for $100 million against the federal government. This isn't just a response. It's a statement of lifestyle. I'd rather fight than surrender. Even if the judge dismisses the claim. Even if the evidence is obvious. An important point. From this episode, Trump's core principle begins to emerge. Losing is not when you're wrong. Losing is when you agree that you're wrong. He settles out of court without admitting guilt, and uses it as a reason to say, "I won." After all this legal storm, Donald realizes renting in Queens is small time. He doesn't want to be just rich. He wants to shine. And he turns his gaze to Manhattan, the center of luxury, influence, and status. There, he buys up old, crumbling buildings and turns them into gold. The Commodore Hotel, reimagined as the Grand Hyatt. Then, Trump Tower, a shining skyscraper of glass, marble, and gold. The physical embodiment of his philosophy. The bigger, the louder, the more expensive, the better. But the building isn't the main thing. The story is not a story about a father who helped with connections. Not about millions in seed money. Not about tax schemes. The story he builds is about a self-made billionaire who lifted everything from scratch by himself. And that story is picked up by TV, the press, the tabloids. He becomes not just a businessman, but a symbol, the man with the golden tower, young models, and boundless confidence. He's not just a developer. He is now a product. And soon, his face and name will sell casinos, vodka, clothing, universities, steaks, airplanes, and even water. But here's the question. Does he truly own all of it? Or is he just selling the illusion? By the mid-1980s, Donald Trump becomes a media star. He's on magazine covers, late-night shows. His name suddenly begins to mean more than his company's. And he understands this. He realizes that it's not necessary to actually build something. It's enough to convince others that you are a builder of greatness. Thus begins the era when Trump turns his name into a product. Trump Vodka, Trump Steaks, Trump University, Trump Airlines, Trump Ice, ties, water, furniture, casinos, license is real estate. But the key is that he didn't actually own most of it. He simply sold the right to use his name, turning reputation into money. It wasn't business in the classical sense. It was large-scale personal marketing. The Trump brand meant luxury, power, being power, victory. Even if underneath the hood, there were losses, debts, and fiction. And honestly, it worked. One of the most revealing moments. Trump used to call journalists pretending to be John Barron, a fictional press secretary representing himself. He praised Mr. Trump, exaggerated his wealth, talked about women who were in love with him. It sounds ridiculous, but it worked. Forbes magazine included him in the list of America's richest people based on that information. He claimed he had $100 million, but it later turned out he had about $5 million. This is the essence of Trump. It doesn't matter how much you actually have in your bank account. What matters is that everyone thinks you have millions. He said it himself in an interview, "I play to people's fantasies. A little hyperbole never hurts." He wasn't building a business, he was building a myth, a fantasy that people themselves wanted to believe in, because they too wanted to seem strong, rich, and free from rules. But like any fairy tale, this one had cracks. By the early 2000s, the casinos went bankrupt, ratings were falling, products disappeared, the brand began to fade. It seemed like the end. But no, Donald had one more card up his sleeve. And that card was a TV show that would return him to the attention of millions. In 2004, when Trump's career was falling apart, television literally saved him. The reality show The Apprentice appeared, where he was the master of life, strict, successful, surrounded by gold and power. The phrase "you're fired" became a meme long before TikTok. It wasn't just a success, it was a resurrection. Millions of people didn't see a businessman who had bankrupted casinos. They saw a man who had everything under control. The show cemented his image as an alpha leader who does not tolerate weakness and always makes tough decisions. It's important to understand, the show did not portray the real Trump. It portrayed his dream of himself. But the viewers didn't care. They believed. Because the image was clear and simple. A successful, wealthy, rough around the edges but decisive man who knows how to do business. Then came the year 2015. Trump descended the golden escalator in Trump Tower and announced that he was running for president. Some laughed, some were puzzled, but Trump was no longer just a man. He was a brand with a 40-year history. And here, everything he had been perfecting for decades, attention, aggression, showmanship, media handling, refusal to apologize, all of it worked. He used the same strategy as always. Problem? Strike first. Scandal? Make it part of the show. Truth? Not so important. What matters is the reaction. He appealed not to facts, but to emotions. He sold simple solutions to complex problems, just like he once sold vodka or steaks. In 2016, Trump won the election, not by the number of votes, but by the rules, fairly. He became the President of the United States, a showman, on the world's biggest stage. He shocked, divided, inspired, and disrupted. And even when he lost the next election, he refused to concede defeat. Because for him, losing is not the loss of power. Losing is agreeing that you were wrong. And he never plays that way. Today, Trump is once again in the White House. And everything seems to be repeating. The same slogans. Make America great again. The same image, a strong leader who doesn't back down. The same fans who believe that he will save the country. But this time, behind the facade of greatness, lies a much harsher and more closed-off policy. One of the key points of his new agenda is the introduction of a 10% tariff on all imports to the United States. That means everything produced outside of America, from electronics to clothing, becomes more expensive. And he presents this as a victory for American industry, as if it's a step toward independence, strength, and regaining control. But if you dig deeper, this isn't the return of strength. This is isolation. Under the guise of caring for the country, we get a sharp rise in prices, increased inflation, trade wars, and, in the long run, economic pressure on millions of ordinary people. The world of 2025 is no longer the same as that of 2016. The global economy is far more interdependent, and when a leader deliberately breaks those ties, he's not saving the country. He's building a wall behind which everything gets more expensive and trust crumbles. Trump still sells the same image, strong, uncompromising, knowing what to do. But now, behind that image, there are fewer rational decisions, and more movement toward personal ambition. He once again promises a strong America. But behind those words is a very specific price that ordinary Americans will pay. Because when everything becomes more expensive, only those who are already wealthy become stronger. The rest tighten their belts. And in this is the essence of Trump. He still doesn't sell reality, he sells a dream. Bold, shiny, loud, but with a silent bill that comes later. And perhaps the main question is not about him. It's about us. Why do we keep buying that dream?